Okay, thank you very much for joining the session again. So today we are going to talk about tuples. So ideally, tuples is another kind of a data structure in Python, and this tuple resembles like a list. It has almost all the behavior of list, unless some few changes. So a tuple uh, is a kind of data structure in a way that instead of having a square bracket in a list, so we declare a tuple using a parenthesis. Okay? And each element are separated by comma. The elements in a tuple and can be an integer, can be a plot, and also it can also be a string. So it's just like a list. The only difference is that this tuple is declared using a parenthesis. Another important thing to all take into account is that this tuple is immutable. What I mean by immutable is that when you declare a tuple, you cannot change. It is declare, it cannot change. You cannot modify a tuple. Let me give you an example here. Okay, let's have them. I have names here as a list. Okay, so I think in the names here I can have maybe a boob. Okay, sorry, yeah, something like that. Okay, sorry. So let's assume I have this one. Okay, if maybe I want to maybe replace, I want to add another name here. Maybe I want to add Abba here and an index 0. Okay, so I can use names here and provide the index here 0. I can write the name. Okay, let me say Abba. Okay, let me use Abba. Okay, something like that, and I can print the name. Okay, so let me run. Okay, so you see now look at here. That means Alice is no longer available. I'll replace this Alice with Abba. Okay, so that means list out and immutable. What I mean by mutable, you can change it, you can modify it. But once you declare a tuple, you cannot change it. You cannot modify anything. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's assume, let me declare a name here, okay? Let me declare it using, okay, once you have this, it's a tuple, okay? So this name is now a tuple, okay? Okay, so let me follow these things. Okay, let me say names here, okay? Abba, let me print it. But I'm very sure I will get something like error here. Okay, you see, that means tuple object does not support item assignment. So, meaning once you declare a tuple, you cannot change it. That means that is what meant by immutable. Okay, so you have to know that. So let me take you back to this. Okay, a tuple looks just like a list except you use parentheses instead of square brackets. Okay, once you define a tuple, you can access individual elements by using each item index, just as you would for a list. Yeah, all the behaviors like accessing individual elements, the looping, the slicing, all these are all these techniques are also employed in tuple. But remember, the tuple are immutable. You cannot add element, you cannot replace element, and you cannot delete element. So that's most important thing, and it's all put at the back of your mind. Okay. So when do you need tuple? Okay. So for example, let's say if you have maybe a dimension, for example, like a rectangular dimension, for example, like maybe a plot of land. Okay. So this the plot of land cannot be changed, for example, because that's the dimension is specified, right? So you can use tuple to uh, uh you can use the tuple as a structure to knows your boundary, okay? Like know the length and the width of the plot, okay? So that's it. So here I have another thing called dimension. It has two input 200 comma 50. So the length of the rectangle is now at index 0 and the width of the rectangle is at index 1. Okay. So um okay, let me delete this one. It's no longer. I just give you an example. Let me delete it. Okay. So what are the advantages of tuple over list? So tuple has a lot of advantages. I just have these few here, but tuple has a lot of advantages over list. Okay, or not over list, but over list. Yeah, I have to have S here. Okay, over list. Yeah. Okay. So in Python, tuple and list are both used to store ordered collections of items. But tuple has some important advantage over list. Number one is immutable. I told you this one. Immutable means cannot be changed. Okay. So that means if your data, for example, maybe you need a high level of data safety in a certain program, for example, like a coordinate, dimensions, maybe a student details. So all this kind of data are normally recorded as a tuple because of this ability of uh, of immutable. Okay, that's it. That's number one. And another thing, yeah, this is also important. Let me give you an example. I don't want to move around, but okay, maybe I will show you. Um, there will be a situation whereby maybe you want to make a
No?
maybe you want to make a plot. Okay,
Padida?
uh, please, Zarewa, you are disturbing us. Please, Zarewa, you are disturbing us. Please unmute us. Mute yourself. Okay, yeah. So for example, maybe you want to plot maybe a certain graph or chart using Python. So there will be a space that you need to you need to provide the size of your plot. So normally this size are normally inputted as a tuple because you cannot change it. And even when running the program, you cannot change it. So unless you override it, I will show you how to override a tuple. So yeah, I think when we come to data visualization, we'll talk about that one in details. So another that's number one. Number two is that when performing maybe for example maybe like iteration like for loop for accessing individual element in a tuple, you find it that in tuple you can access individual elements faster compared to a list because in a list there'll be a situation whereby a Python is trying to reorganize or modify in the element while running the program. So that means the Python will delay the process. Okay, so since the tuple are immutable, they cannot modify, they cannot be modified. So that means this modification and resizing process is no longer available. So that's what makes the tuple become uh, faster, especially when running maybe iterations or maybe assisting elements. I think let me show you something. Okay, for example, let us on here. Uh, let me print for example. Okay, okay. Maybe a student name is okay. So okay, okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, I think it's let me show the problem. Hmm, let me run this. Okay, student. What's the problem? Okay, let me run this first. Okay, now this one can be run, and this one can also be run. Okay, so you see, the student name is Abubakar. So because this is very simple, that's why maybe you not see any kind of maybe difference. But maybe if you are running a very large program, then you realize that assessing element using assessing element, sorry, assessing element in a tuple is faster compared to a list. Okay, so this is what I want to show you. Okay, well, this is just like a demonstration. You can access individual element just like how we did in the list. Just look at it here. This is a tuple called a student. It has an element, Abubakar, civil engineering, 3.8, 2014. Okay, so I want to access this name, Abubakar. That's why I have the student at the name of the tuple. At what index the name is, it's index 0. Then because it's a string, I provide a title. Because title is a kind of a method that is used to format a string. If you want a capital or uppercase at the beginning of the words. Okay, so that's advantage number two. Advantage number three is less memory usage. Uh, for example, maybe if you have a memory constraint in a computer and you are running a very large, especially if you are running a deep learning uh, operation, because deep learning normally requires a huge data. So sometimes you may have a data that is around 200 megabytes, okay? And maybe if your capacity of your computer, for example, is maybe it's around 4 gigabytes, around 4 gigabyte RAM. So when running this kind of uh, program, you'll experience a huge delay, especially if you have a lot of Windows open, okay? So sometimes you can leverage the use of tuple. This tuple will, if you have a very large data, so if you are using a tuple, so tuple consume a less space compared to uh, list. That's just the idea. For example, let me give you an example. Maybe you understand much better. And let me give you an example here. Um, let me say a list, for example. Okay, okay, sorry. Let me call it numbers. Here, it has a list, for example, that is ranges from one to, let's assume from 1 to 1 million, something like that. Okay, so you see these numbers are very large, right? So let's assume, and it's and in a kind of list. Let me show you something. Yeah. This it cannot be printed here actually because the numbers are very large. It cannot be printed here until I have advanced to. So let me reduce to maybe 1,000. So you see, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. So you see, the numbers is the very large. So and look at it. It's a list. Okay. So let me print maybe the data type. Okay. Okay. Sorry. The data type. So you see, data type is a list, and I can have something like I can have some, let me show you the size. Let me show you the space. Sorry, so that's nice. Okay, let me show you something like this, maybe. So you see, look at look at the space it accommodates. It accommodates about 8,040 bytes. That is something like 8 kilobytes. So for let me use the same thing for okay. Let me just run. Okay, let me copy it here. I'll use the same thing, but let me make it truffle. have tuple. Okay, so let me run the program. So look at here. Okay, look at the space here. The space for the list, look at it, it's 8040 bytes. And look at the space for the tuple is 8016 bytes. I hope you are following. Please, are you following? Please, are you
Yes,
following?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's very good. So this is so
Yes, we are following.
okay. So look at the difference. Even the difference is not huge, but if maybe you are running a very large data set, you realize that this is something significant. So, and just like what I told you, okay, sorry, before then, I think I omitted one thing I want to make it. Okay. So just like what I told you, you cannot modify a list. Okay. But once you try to modify a list, it will throw an error for you. Look at here. I have the dimensions here. Okay. I have 1920 and 1080. So I find the dimension something like this. So I'm now trying to access the first element that at index 0 and modify it to 2560. So because tuples are immutable, so once I run this program, it gives me something like this, an error, okay? And there'll be a situation whereby you want to declare one element in a tuple. Want to declare one element in a tuple. So please, when trying to even though it doesn't make any sense, but sometimes it happens. So make sure you have a comma. You have a comma. Okay, let me give you an example so that you all understand what I mean. Okay. Okay, sorry. Let's assume I have name, something like this here. So I can declare a name, let's use only one name. Sorry, something like Abu, something like this. Okay. And if I print this, okay, something like this. Okay, look at it. The result is still Abba. Okay. But if I have a truffle, let me give you an example. If I have a truffle like this and I declare it with one element, like here I have Abba, okay? If I print it, you will see it is only Abba that available. It will now look at it. There's no parenthesis. It's telling you that this is just a string. Okay? So whenever you are trying to declare a truffle with only one element, so you need to provide this comma at the end. You need to provide this comma here. Then you run the program. Okay? And that is why you have something like this. Well, this is what I want to tell. But in a list, you don't have that problem. But when you are trying to define a tuple that has only one element, so make sure you follow these things. It's yeah. So just like uh, just like a list, a tuple can also be you can also perform a looping as well as slicing operation. So just like here, if I want to print this, I can have four dimension in dimensions. I have this column, and I can print dimension. And when I run the program, I have this output. Okay, like this one here, I have a student details. Yeah, but here I just want to show you how you can access individual element, just like a revision about what we have done. You have Aisha Mechanical Engineering 3.9 2023. Okay, so I just want print. Okay, student name is so I want to access this Aisha. So how can I do that? Because this is F string. I told you about this one F string. To use F string, you need to have your curly braces. So I have curly braces here. Then you write the name of the tuple. Then you provide the index of the element you want to access. Okay, so the name of the tuple is student details. I have a student details. I want to access element at index 0. So that's why I have 0 here. So that's why here the name is this all these things, all this here I'm trying to access Aisha because it's an index zero. So that's why here I have Aisha. And this and she is in, then I want to know her department. Okay. So still I can use the same student because they're on the same tuple student. But now this mechanical is belonged to index one. So that's why I have index one here. Okay. So because I don't want this code to continue like that because it will accommodate a very large space, something like this. So I decided to break it. Okay, let me show you something. Okay, instead of me to have a very long code like this, okay, instead of me to have a very long code like this, so I just decided to break it so that you all see what I'm doing. Okay, so that's why I have something like this. This backslash, okay, like this, is telling the Python that, please, I just want to break this code, but you can execute it the same. Okay, so I just want to break it down so that you it will be easily for a reader. So once I run it, okay, but look at here, because here I have a space, look at it. I have an indentation here. So that's why here I have this a long space here. I can remove the indentation here. Okay, and I have it something like this. Okay, then I can run it, and this is how it should look. Okay, so what happens if, for example, you define a tuple and you want to make some amendment? For example, maybe you declare a tuple and you want to make some changes. So how are you going to do? Then you override it. And overriding means you define it again so that you will lose your initial value. Let me show you something like this, okay? Let's assume I have A here, which is, for example, I have 6, for example. Once I print A, once I print A, definitely I will have 6, right? Okay. What of if I have A here, I declared as 8, for example. If I declared as 8, for example, like this, okay? If I come here and print A, please, who can give me the output? Please, someone should unmute himself and talk. Who can give me what is the possible value of A here? Please, anybody can unmute yourself. Anybody who is willing to answer the questions. What is the possible value
A
of A?
will be A, sir.
A will be,
It will be A.
it will be 8, exactly. The reason is that A is just like a container. I told you before, A is a variable. It's just like a container. Initially, we put 6 inside A. That's why we print A as 6, right? But here, A, the same container, now we remove this 6, we put 8. Definitely, if you print A, it will be 8. That's it. It will be 8. So this is what you call overwriting. Overwriting. You have the variable, you redefine it again. So the variable will now contain your recent value. Okay, this idea is what you call overwriting. So if you want to make some amendment in a tuple, so the best way to make it is to override it because it is immutable. I hope you are following. So please, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's it. So here I have a dimensions. I have 1280 comma 720. So this is the initial dimension or the original dimension. So once I print it, look at it here, I have the initial dimensions, right? So let's assume I want to modify it. Instead of having this dimension, maybe I want to provide a new dimensions. Okay. So this is it. So I declare these new dimensions and provide the recent value I want. Then I can print it. And this is the updated dimensions. So this is the output. Okay. So I think this is the end of our lecture for today. I don't know if we have questions for me. So any question?
No questions.
No, I think there must be questions. Then we need to have a questions. Any question? Everything is
Yeah, I'm
understood.
taking.
Is everything okay?
Yes, it's all okay here.
Yes, sir.